The film guy, Microbudgeter.com. In this video, I'm going to expand on an existing post about W-2 employment. That's right. When you go and work for somebody else as a video producer, and in this video, you're going to learn some of the things that I've learned through trial and error, through a lot of school of hard knocks type of learning, where you know now what to do after this video. And that's what I promised to do for you. I will tell you about the difference between an exempt and a non-exempt job. I will tell you about unemployment insurance. I will tell you about filing for workers' comp if it's necessary. And last but not least, I'm going to talk to you about what a veteran can do when going to the negotiating table, because I want you to be as successful as possible when you go and talk to a potential W-2 employer. That is my goal. So if you're brand new here, smash that big red subscribe button, and that way you'll get Scottish accents every Sunday. And if you actually think the video is useful, you can either give it a thumbs down, and if you think it's terrible, you can give it a thumbs up. I'll take either one. All right. Before I get too lost in the sauce, let's begin. Over at the site Microbudgeter.com, I've actually got this post. It's updated going into 2021 with some of the things that I've learned over the years as a video producer, as being somebody in the field of digital communications. And all of this kind of applies if you are in this world of public affairs, digital communications, video. They're all about getting content from point A to point B, understanding audiences, understanding the best ways to optimize that content, learning how to utilize copy, video, print, all of it while reaching a gathering of people, and understanding the venue that that gathering of people is currently accumulating at. All right, or gathering in. That sounds a little more like the normal vernacular. I ain't a wordsmith, folks. I'm from Atlanta. Okay, we're going to talk today about the workers' comp as promised. I've also updated this post so that when you sign up on the Bold Nation newsletter and I farm all your information out to the dark side of the moon, I'm kidding, I won't do that. I have actually updated, and I'm in the process of updating that bonus content so that you can learn more about how to negotiate salary and not get shanghaied. Here's what I want you to take away with this. If you drop off after this point, at least take this away, if nothing else. Doesn't matter what kind of job you're applying for. Every business, nonprofit, church, and government entity is going to do their absolute best to get the best bargain. So they have their interests at heart first and foremost. You got to load yourself up with some knowledge and make sure you're taking care of you and your family and the people that you are called to impact. This is, of course, if you are a budding filmmaker / video producer who is now deciding, I'm going to go and work for someone else. I'm going to use my God-given skills and go impact a team. Whoever that might be. Could be any one of those four-mentioned sectors there. Government, for-profit, nonprofit, churches. Okay. Workers' comp. What is it? Workers' comp is something that you have on a state-by-state basis. It's an insurance that your employer pays into more often than not so that if you get hurt on the job, you're covered. That's what it boils down to. I've never had to file for it. Praise God. I don't want anybody to have to file for workers' comp. There are different things you can file for with workers' comp. You need to check with your state because it's different from state to state. I promise you. In Nevada, where I used to live, you can see here on the screen, all private employers with one or more employees are required to get workers' comp insurance. That's pretty much everybody. Now, there might be exceptions in Nevada. In Missouri, for example, I found out that churches aren't required to maintain workers' comp for their employees. You need to go and do the homework for the state that you're looking to do work in and make sure that they have a workers' comp policy. And if they don't, see if that employer is going to offer at least some kind of disability insurance, short-term, long-term disability. Because if you get hurt on the job, bada bing, bada bam, you can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of your family. You can't take care of the people that God's called you to go and serve. So, item number 1, workers' comp. Check with your state. Let's talk about what happens if you get laid off. Well, Jake, you're talking about applying for a job. Why aren't we talking about getting laid off? Hey, I get it, but these are tough times. 2020 has been a wild west of a year. You have to be smart about this. I'm not saying you need to be fearful about being laid off. The good book says in Proverbs that the prudent see danger and they take refuge. In other words, you're going to make a smart decision here. Now, if you're going to get laid off down the road, Are they going to have an unemployment insurance that they're paying into? That's something you need to Google for your state yet again. So check it out here. In Nevada, most for-profit employers are liable for state unemployment taxes. Well, Jake the Film Guy, that's at nolo.com. I see, but even if you look at here, the .gov address, so we know this is straight from the horse's mouth, there are the same mentions here. It's pretty much anybody, generally any employing unit that has paid wages for employment in Nevada of $225 or more during the calendar year, they're required to pay into it. Now, churches, probably across the board, I can't say that with absolute 100% certainty, but I'm going to lean on that churches across the board are not required to pay into unemployment insurance, which is why the CARES Act that got passed this year was so big, not just for the gig economy, but for church workers who were getting laid off because of the pandemic, just the impact it has had. And because giving is down, churches have had to let go of employees. They're probably still in that process, honest to goodness. Now, an employer is supposed to be above reproach, and tell you if they actually do not cover unemployment insurance. You might as well figure out a way to be tactful and sniff this out while you're talking to them in that first conversation. And when you do that, you will have the peace of mind of knowing that, hey, if I get laid off because things get tight, at least I can go to my state and file for unemployment insurance. You can't file for unemployment insurance if you are a dirtbag employee and you do something to deserve getting fired. If you get laid off because of budget cuts, personnel reductions, that sort of thing, then you are more than likely qualified to go and file with your state if your employer paid into it. But you need to be discerning. You need to look into the laws regarding your state and understand if I'm jumping into a church, if I'm jumping into a nonprofit, maybe they don't pay into unemployment insurance. It is something that you file with the state. So you need to go and check with your state. Just type in your state name. I like picking on Nevada since I live there. You will go and type in your state unemployment insurance and then just learn from the horse's mouth. Go to the .gov websites and see what are the requirements for your state. Because if you do get laid off, you need to be able to get a little bit of cash flow coming in as you are looking for other work and rebooting and recalibrating, just figuring out what your next steps are. Let's go on to the next topic here. The difference between tax exempt and non-exempt. Okay, I once had an employer try to do a temporary trial run. This employer wanted to see, well, let's see if you're up to snuff. Okay, we're going to do 20 hours a week, part-time. We're going to do that for a little stretch here. See if, you got what it takes, and we'll reevaluate at the end of this trial run. Here's the catch. This employer, remember what I told you at the beginning? If you didn't get past the first minute, it's worth repeating here. Every employer at the end of the day is going to look out for themselves. So with a employer offering you an exempt position, which is what happened with this story, the 20 hours a week exempt position meant I can have unlimited overtime. Now, that's something you typically associate with full-time salaried employees. For most jobs, yes, you're going to be exempt from the FLSA requirements. The FLSA are those requirements from the Fair Labor Standards Act that say an employer has to pay overtime for people that are non-exempt. So it kind of sounds backwards when you say exempt and non-exempt. So you have to really think about that, and you're not alone if you get confused by it. Honestly, I get confused by it and I have to stop and think every time. Okay, exempt means they are exempt from paying overtime wages to their employees. So if an employer is going to give you a part-time exempt job, tap the brakes. That could be a red flag. Obviously, they have their interests in mind. They want to get you, the tentative, that'd be a better word there, the tentative employee for rock bottom pricing. Obviously, they want the best people, but they're always going to try to get them for as cheap as possible. That's just how the world works. I'm not saying it's good or bad. That's a discussion for another time. The bottom line is they're looking out for themselves first and foremost. At the same time, you got to look out for yourself, the people that you are serving, and that may include your family and your community. So I highly recommend, if it is a full-time job, be understanding. It's probably going to be an exempt offer. There are some instances with Uncle Sam, for example, where you can get into audiovisual work that are non-exempt salaried full-time roles. They do exist. read the fine print, read the offer, and make sure you know what you're jumping into. Okay. Do I want to talk about the work opportunity tax credit? Let's put that into the bonus section. We're going to try something different here. Oh, hey, what do you know? Look at this. We're going to the bonus section. I hope that you will use these gifts that God has given you for the glory of God and the glory of God alone when it comes to video, when it comes to digital communications. And if you stuck around this long, as promised, we're going to talk about 2 bonus items. If you want to find out about salary negotiations, how to get the best deal possible without showing all your cards, you're going to head on over to the site. And when you do that, you're going to be able to join the newsletter and get instant access to all of that information. And I'm in the process of still updating this bonus upgrade. It will be finished within this first week here in November of 2020. Work opportunity tax credit. Okay, if you are a veteran, stick around. If you're not a veteran, I still got one more bonus after this one for you, so sit tight. We'll do this one quickly. The work opportunity tax credit, if you are a veteran, straight from the horse's mouth, irs.gov, talks about how you, as a veteran, might offer a tax incentive to an employer to hire you. And there are certain restrictions that will apply. For example, if you have been unemployed for at least 4 weeks, or maybe you've been unemployed for 6 months or longer, that's an even bigger kickback for that employer. What happens is they look at things like Social Security taxes that are paid to Uncle Sam on your behalf, because every W-2 employer is going to cover half of your Social Security taxes. It's really actually your FICA. They're doing half, which is the Social Security and Medicare tax, if memory serves, Medicare. You, as you've noticed with your pay stubs, pay for the other half. So as a veteran video producer or digital communicator or public affairs specialist, whatever the case may be, I'm just going to say video is the all-encompassing term because they're really all just merging, then you have a incentive for this employer to hire you. It could be as much as a couple of $1,000 to several $1,000 for the sake of hiring you. Uncle Sam's trying to give employers reasons to put veterans back to work. So use that when you go to the negotiating table. Now, here's the other bonus. I promise, and it's going to go across the board. You don't have to be a veteran to use this bonus. This one is huge. So at the beginning of this blog post, I updated this with some good lessons that I've learned along the way in this journey of being a filmmaker. And that is this is completely tangential, but when you're in that interviewing process, when you are talking to the employer, if nothing else, I would make sure that you ask about building morale. You don't want to jump into a team that absolutely hates each other's guts. You want to be a part of a healthy, strong team, right? I certainly would. So how do you discern that? One of the easiest questions to ask in that first interview is, when is the last time you did something fun, something morale building, something that just was for building the health of the team? Where was it? What was it? And then shut up. Let them talk. If their answer in any way, shape, or form, this is critical. If their answer in any way, shape, or form includes the following: well, we do weekly staff meetings. Meetings are not fun. Staff meetings are even less fun. When you have an all-team or all-staff meeting, they're a drag. Most meetings are horrible because they miss the quintessential element, as Patrick Lencioni would say, of conflict. We like our sitcoms, we like our movies, we like any of our stories because at the core of them, a story has conflict and how that conflict is overcome. Generally, obviously some stories are a little more experimental, but nonetheless, meetings lack that element, and so they're a chore. They're soul-crushing. If the answer from that interviewer includes, well, we do weekly staff meetings. I realize 2020 has been a rocky year. A lot of in-person gatherings and events are sidelined. I get that. But if that's one of their default answers, to me, that's a red flag. I have turned down a job because I heard that from the employer. It was the first thing they responded with when they said, well, we do our weekly staff meetings. That doesn't promote morale. If anything, it's the exact opposite. And if they think that, then they're too blind to understand that their culture and the health of their team are probably lacking. So be warned. May the Lord bless and keep you. I pray that you find lots and lots of clients as you do your video production work on the side as a part-time side hustle or a full-time endeavor. Or if you are fully employed or looking to be full-time with some other W-2 employer, I still wish that you will be blessed with lots of successful client relationships, healthy ones, and I pray that you will also bring the best customer service on whatever side of the Mississippi you are on, because you've been given that unique God-given skill set. And this is a marathon. Don't forget that. This journey, it absolutely needs the tenacity of the hare. You need it. You need that conviction and that drive, but you need to be like the tortoise because it is a marathon. So stay in there. Don't quit. That's why I wear the shirt all the time. I want you to keep praying. I don't want you to quit because the world needs more stories that are going to point people to the hope we have in Jesus. So, buddy, buckle up and hang in there. I will catch you on next week's video. And if I haven't already driven the point home enough, smash that big red subscribe button.